Mercy to a dog, mercy from Allah. Powerful Hadith story. In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the especially merciful. There was a day when the sun seemed closer to the earth than usual, and the road stretched out like an endless ribbon of dust and stone. A man walked alone, carrying little with him besides the weight of travel and the hope that somewhere ahead there would be relief. He had set out earlier than most would, thinking he could outrun the worst of the heat, but the hours moved faster than his steps, and soon the warmth became a burden pressing down on his shoulders. At first, he told himself it would pass. He had walked in heat before, he had endured thirst before, but this time it kept building, slowly and steadily, until it was no longer just discomfort. His throat tightened, his tongue felt heavy, and every breath seemed to scrape dry air through his chest. His lips cracked, the skin on his face burned. His legs still moved, but the strength behind them was fading. He looked across the land for any sign of mercy, a tree, a stream, a traveler, a shadow that could offer a few minutes of rest. But the landscape gave him nothing except distance. The wind itself felt hot, as if it carried the sun rather than cooling it. He continued because stopping felt dangerous. He knew that if he sat down with no water and no shade, weakness could become collapse, and collapse could become an end. So he forced his feet forward, step after step, breath after breath. The road became a test of patience. In moments like that, a person thinks about many things. He remembered times when water had been plentiful and he had drunk without gratitude, as if it were guaranteed. He remembered days of ease when he complained about small troubles. Now, with his mouth dry and his mind clouded by thirst, he understood how fragile comfort could be and how quickly a blessing could be missed once it was gone. He whispered to himself that Allah is the provider, that Allah is the one who gives life to the earth after it dies, that Allah is the one who hears even the quietest plea. His voice was faint, but the meaning was strong, and in his heart a private thought repeated again and again, "O Allah, grant me water. O Allah, do not leave me to myself." Time passed in a way that felt both slow and sudden. Slow because each minute dragged like a heavy stone. Sudden because the body's strength can disappear without warning. He noticed the dizziness first, then the way the world seemed to shimmer, then the fear, a calm fear, not loud but clear, that he might not make it much further. And then in the distance he saw something that made him stop. A well. It was not beautiful, it did not shine like treasure, it did not promise luxury, but to him it looked like life itself. He stared at it to make sure it was real. Then he hurried forward as much as his weakened body allowed. As he approached, he could see the stones around it, the worn edges shaped by time and hands that had pulled water long before he arrived. He reached the well and leaned over it. The air inside was cooler. He could sense the presence of water below, and that alone brought hope. Without wasting time, he began to climb down. The descent was careful. His hands gripped the stones. His feet searched for stable places. The thirst made him impatient, but he forced himself to be steady. A fall would turn this mercy into disaster. So he lowered himself until he reached the water. When he finally drank, it felt as if life returned through his throat into every part of him. He drank deeply, not in a careless way, but in the way a person drinks when he knows what it means to be near the edge. The water cooled his mouth, it softened the dryness, it calmed the burning inside. He remained there a moment, breathing in the cooler air of the well, allowing his body to recover. He thanked Allah quietly, not with a loud speech, not with a display for anyone, but with a heart that recognized the gift. Then he climbed back up. The climb was still difficult, but now he had strength again. When he reached the top, he stood for a moment, looking at the open land, feeling the sun, feeling the wind, and knowing he had been saved from a danger he could not defeat alone. He began to walk away. But he did not go far before something else caught his attention, something that changed the rest of his day and perhaps changed his life in a way he could not fully understand at the time. He saw a dog. The dog was not running with energy or searching with curiosity. It was moving in a desperate circle near the well, panting heavily. Its tongue hung out. Its breath was rapid. It lowered its head and licked at the ground as if the earth itself could offer water. The way it moved showed weakness, and the sound of its panting carried a suffering that did not need words to be understood. The man stopped and watched. He had seen animals before. He had walked past animals before. But this moment was different because he recognized what he was seeing. He recognized the thirst. He recognized the desperation. He recognized the pain. And he recognized it because it had just been inside him. A thought came to his mind, simple and sharp. This dog is feeling what I felt. In that instant, he could have turned away. He could have said, I have already suffered. I have already reached the water. I have already saved myself. I do not have to do anything more. No one was watching him. No one would praise him. No one would know. But something inside him did not allow him to leave. It was not pride. It was not a desire for attention. It was something quieter and more sincere. Mercy. The kind of mercy Allah loves. The kind of mercy that comes from a heart that still has softness in it. He looked again at the well. He looked again at the dog, and he made a decision. He would go back down. His body was tired from the journey. His hands ached. His clothes were dusty. The sun still burned above him. And yet he turned back, not because he was forced, but because he chose goodness when no one required it. He went to the well and began to descend again. This second descent felt heavier than the first. When a person is desperate, adrenaline pushes him forward. But when the emergency is over, the body feels everything. His arms trembled slightly. His fingers tightened on the stones. He breathed slowly, trying to remain steady as he moved downward. He reached the water again. Now he needed something to carry it up. He did not have a bucket ready. He did not have a rope with a container. He had only what he wore and what he carried. So he used his leather sock or shoe. He filled it with water. Water spilled a little as he lifted it, but he did his best to hold it carefully. He knew every drop mattered to the creature waiting above. Then he began to climb out, carrying the water as carefully as he could. The climb upward felt longer than before. Each movement required balance. Each step required control. The water moved inside the leather, threatening to spill. The man focused on one thing only: reach the top, reach the dog. When he finally emerged from the well, he did not stop to rest. He moved quickly toward the dog. He lowered the water and allowed the dog to drink. The dog drank with a desperation that slowly softened. The frantic panting calmed. The dog's body steadied. The thirst that had driven it to lick dry earth began to fade. The man watched until the dog was no longer suffering as before. He felt no regret. He felt no anger about the effort he had made. Instead, he felt a quiet peace. He had saved himself with water, and then he had shared water with another living creature. In that moment, he may not have known how great that deed was in the sight of Allah. Many people think greatness is only in what is seen, in what is celebrated, in what is spoken about. But Allah sees what is hidden. Allah knows what is sincere. Allah knows what a person does when the world is silent and only the Creator is watching. The man turned away from the dog and continued his path. But the story does not end there, because Allah's mercy does not end at what people see. Allah appreciated what the man had done. Allah accepted that act of mercy, and Allah forgave him because of it. This is the part of the story that shakes the heart. Forgiveness. Not because the man did something that seemed enormous to people, but because he showed mercy to a thirsty creature when he could have ignored it. He used what he had, he worked for it, he carried water with difficulty, he chose compassion over convenience. When the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, told this story, it taught the believers that goodness is not limited to humans alone. It taught that a heart filled with faith does not become cruel. It taught that mercy is a path to Allah's mercy. The companions, hearing this, asked a question that shows their desire to understand. Are we rewarded for kindness even to animals? And the answer came with a meaning that is broad and powerful. There is reward for kindness to every living creature. Every living creature. Not only those who can speak to you, not only those who can thank you, not only those who can repay you. Every living creature. A thirsty dog on a hot road, a creature with no voice in human language, a life that Allah created and placed on the earth. This story is a lesson for anyone who thinks small deeds do not matter. It is a lesson for anyone who believes forgiveness is only for those who perform great acts. It is a lesson for anyone who has sins and feels heavy with them. Because Allah can forgive through mercy. Allah can open doors through kindness. Allah can elevate a person through a deed done in secret. And it is a lesson for anyone who becomes hardened by life. Trials can make the heart sharp. Stress can make a person selfish, but faith calls the believer back to softness, back to compassion, back to the awareness that every act is seen by Allah. The man in the story was thirsty, and Allah provided him water. Then he saw another thirsty creature, and he provided water. In that pattern is a reminder, when Allah gives a blessing, it is an opportunity to share goodness from that blessing, even in a small way. If the man had walked away, perhaps no one would have blamed him. Many people would have said, "You have done enough, you have saved yourself, continue your journey." But the measure of faith is not what people excuse. The measure of faith is what the heart chooses when it is free to choose. He chose mercy, and Allah rewarded him with forgiveness. So when a person hears this story, let it plant something in the soul. Let it plant gratitude for water and for every blessing that is often forgotten. Let it plant mercy toward the weak, the thirsty, the hungry, the neglected. Let it plant the belief that Allah sees every hidden deed. And let it plant hope. Because hope is part of faith. No matter how far a person feels, Allah's doors are not closed. No matter how heavy sins feel, Allah's mercy is greater. And sometimes the path back to Allah begins with a simple act of compassion done sincerely, seeking nothing but His pleasure. O Allah, make us among the merciful. O Allah, place mercy in our hearts for every living creature. O Allah, forgive us and accept from us even the smallest deeds done sincerely for your sake. And may peace and blessings be upon the Prophet Muhammad and upon his family and companions.